I was standing outside my own kitchen, barefoot on freezing December tiles, and my whole world was about to shatter. But here's the thing about breaking. Sometimes it's exactly what you need to rebuild yourself stronger. Through the crack in the door, I could hear my husband Derek and his best friend Nate laughing over their beers. Derek's voice carried that smug tone I'd grown to recognize over our 3 years of marriage. Dude, I'm telling you, when I serve Emily those papers on Christmas morning, she's gonna lose it completely. They all cry. They all beg. It's actually kind of pathetic. Nate chuckled. You really think she'll break down? Are you kidding? Emily's the type who thinks love conquers all. She has no idea what's coming. I give her 30 seconds before the waterworks start. My hand gripped the doorframe so tight my knuckles went white. 3 years. 3 years of me thinking we were building something together while he was planning my destruction. But you know what? Derek made one crucial mistake. He underestimated me. If you believe no one should feel powerless in their own life, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happened next is going to change everything you think you know about divorce Christmas and the power of preparation. This isn't just a story about a marriage ending. This is about what happens when someone bets against you and you decide to prove them spectacularly wrong. This is about serving divorce papers with grace strategy and a twist that no one saw coming. My name is Emily, and this Christmas, I was about to teach my husband that the quiet ones are always the most dangerous. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up 6 months because the signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. Picture this: our neighborhood's annual summer barbecue. I'm wearing this yellow sundress I'd bought specifically for the occasion, thinking Derek would notice. I was so naive back then. I'm standing by the potato salad table when Derek slides up next to me, beer in hand, talking to our neighbor Jim about his promotion at the insurance firm. Yeah, Emily's been pretty supportive through all this, Derek says, but there's this edge to his voice. Though, honestly, Jim, she's lucky I'm here. Most guys wouldn't put up with someone who burns dinner 3 nights a week. The laughter that followed felt like ice water in my veins. I kept smiling, kept nodding, kept playing the part of the good wife who can take a joke. But inside, I was dying a little. My best friend Maya caught up with me later as I was scraping plates into the trash. Honey, are you okay? You've been quiet all afternoon. I forced another smile. I'm fine. Derek's just being Derek. You know he's sarcastic like that. But Maya's eyes narrowed. She'd known me since college. That wasn't sarcasm, Emily. That was mean. It's not that serious, I said, avoiding her gaze. Marriage is about compromise, right? Besides, he's under a lot of pressure at work. Maya grabbed my wrist gently. When's the last time he said something nice about you in public? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't remember. Not one thing. That night, I deleted Instagram from my phone, then Facebook, then Twitter. It was easier than watching other couples post their happy moments while I tried to convince myself that Derek's constant put-downs were just his sense of humor. One by one, I started declining girls' nights out. Coffee dates with Maya became less frequent. Phone calls went unanswered. It wasn't that I didn't want to see them. It's that I couldn't bear to explain why my husband treated me like an inconvenience he'd learned to tolerate. The isolation crept in slowly, like fog rolling over a harbor. Before I knew it, Derek was the only voice in my world, and that voice was telling me I was lucky he stayed. Fast forward to New Year's Eve. Derek insisted we host. This time said it would be good for his image at work. I spent 2 days cooking, cleaning, making everything perfect. Classic Emily, right? The party was in full swing when I headed to the kitchen for more ice. That's when I heard Derek and Nate in the dining room, voices lowered, but not quite whisper quiet. I'm serious, man, Derek was saying. $50 says she breaks down completely when I serve her the papers. Nate laughed. You're really going through with it. On Christmas morning. Christmas morning, maximum impact. She'll be so shocked she won't even think to fight the prenup terms. My blood turned to ice. Prenup. We never signed a prenup. We talked about it before the wedding, but Derek said it wasn't necessary because we trusted each other. What prenup was he talking about? Dude, that's cold even for you, Nate said, but he was still chuckling. Hey, business is business. Besides, she signed it when she was drunk at that party last month. She probably doesn't even remember. That party, Maya's birthday dinner. I'd had way too much wine, and Derek kept refilling my glass. I remembered signing something, but he said it was just a card for the restaurant's anniversary book. $50 it is, Nate said. Though, honestly, I feel kind of bad for Emily. Don't. She'll land on her feet. Women like her always do. I stood there in my own kitchen, holding a bag of ice that was slowly melting through my fingers, listening to my husband bet money on my emotional breakdown. When they moved to the living room, I crept into the dining room. There on the table was a cocktail napkin with their signatures and the number 50 scrawled underneath. But underneath that, in Derek's handwriting, was one word that made my stomach drop: prenup. I took a picture of that napkin with my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I had to take 3 shots to get it in focus. The rest of the party passed in a blur. I smiled. I laughed. I played the perfect hostess while my world crumbled around me. When the last guest left at 2 a.m., Derek was too drunk to notice that I hadn't said a word to him in hours. The next morning, while Derek nursed his hangover with a black coffee in silence, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called Maya. Emergency coffee date, I texted her. Like right now, emergency. 20 minutes later, we were sitting in our old spot at Starbucks, and I was showing her the photo of the napkin. Emily, what is this? Maya asked, squinting at my phone screen. Evidence, I said quietly. Evidence that my husband is planning to divorce me on Christmas morning and thinks I'm too stupid to see it coming. Maya's face went through about 5 different emotions in 10 seconds. Okay. First of all, we're calling my lawyer friend Sarah. Second of all, we're scanning every document in your house. And third of all, we're going to beat him at his own game. That afternoon, while Derek played golf, Maya and I turned into private investigators. We scanned that napkin emailed copies to 3 different accounts and locked the original in Maya's safety deposit box. But here's what Derek didn't know about me. I might have been quiet, I might have been isolated, but I wasn't stupid, and I definitely wasn't going down without a fight. Over the next few weeks, I became a different person. On the surface, I was still the same Emily, making Derek's coffee, doing his laundry, pretending everything was normal. But underneath, I was building a case. I started keeping a journal. Not the flowery kind I used to write in college, but a detailed log of every comment, every slight, every moment that revealed Derek's true character. January 8th. Derek told his coworker on speakerphone that I was high maintenance but low value. Laughed when I brought him lunch at the office. January 15th. Called me pathetic for crying during a commercial about rescue dogs. Said emotional women were exhausting. January 22nd. Told his mother I was the reason we hadn't given her grandchildren yet, despite us never even discussing kids seriously. Each entry was dotted, timed, and cross-referenced with any witnesses present. Maya called it my divorce insurance policy. But the real breakthrough came 3 weeks into my investigation. I was at Corner Cafe, the little place downtown where Derek never went because he said their coffee was peasant fuel. I was reviewing my notes when someone slid into the booth across from me. Emily Martinez, right? I looked up to see a guy about my age, dark hair, kind eyes, wearing a jacket I recognized from Derek's insurance office. I'm Lucas Chen. I work with Derek in the commercial division. My heart stopped. Had Derek sent someone to spy on me? Relax, Lucas said, reading my expression. Derek doesn't know I'm here. Actually, Derek doesn't know I know you exist, which is pretty telling in itself. What do you mean? Lucas leaned forward, lowering his voice. I've worked with your husband for 2 years. Not once has he mentioned being married. Not once. Most of us assumed he was single. The coffee in my mouth turned bitter. Oh. There's more, Lucas continued. And I'm only telling you this because I have 2 sisters, and if someone was doing this to them, I'd want them to know. He pulled out his phone, and showed me a screenshot of a text conversation. Derek's name was at the top, but the messages were to someone listed as M. Can't wait to be free of the dead weight. Christmas morning is going to be epic. She has no idea what's coming. The response from M was even worse. Poor thing. She really thinks you love her, doesn't she? You should probably know, Lucas said gently, that Derek's been taking a lot of long lunches lately, and they're not with clients. I stared at the phone screen until the words blurred. An affair. Of course there was an affair, because humiliating me in public and planning to destroy me financially wasn't enough. Who is M? I managed to ask. Monica Walsh. She works in Derek's building, different company. Real estate, I think. They've been pretty obvious about it, honestly. I'm surprised you haven't heard from someone else. But that was the thing. I'd isolated myself so completely that there was no one else to hear from. Lucas studied my face carefully. What are you going to do? For the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness or fear. I felt clarity. I'm going to need more information, I said. And I think you might be able to help me. Lucas smiled, and it was the first genuine kindness I'd seen in longer than I could remember. Emily, he said, it would be my absolute pleasure. That's how I learned that the quiet ones aren't just dangerous, we're strategic. And Derek had no idea what kind of storm was coming his way. Lucas became my inside source over the next 2 weeks. Not in a sneaky way, just a friend looking out for someone who clearly needed it. We'd meet at the cafe, and he'd share what he'd overheard. Derek wasn't exactly subtle about his plans, but nothing prepared me for what Lucas showed me on a cold Tuesday in mid-February. Emily, he said, sliding his phone across the table, you need to see this. Derek left his phone unlocked on his desk during a meeting. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the message notification popped up right as I was walking by. The message thread with Monica was open, and what I read made my hands start shaking. Derek. Lawyer says Christmas filing will give us maximum psychological impact. I want front row tears when she realizes she's getting nothing. Monica. You're terrible. I love it. She still doesn't suspect. Derek. Please. Emily's too trusting for her own good. Always has been. She'll be blindsided completely. Monica. Poor little wifey. What time are you planning the big reveal, Derek? Christmas morning, right after she opens her presents. I want her to feel the whiplash. Joy to devastation in 30 seconds flat. I read the messages 3 times before the words fully sank in. This wasn't just about divorce. This was about cruelty. This was about Derek wanting to watch me break. Emily. Lucas's voice sounded far away. Are you okay? I wasn't okay. I stood up so fast I knocked over my coffee cup, the hot liquid spreading across the table. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to run. I practically sprinted out of the cafe and didn't stop until I reached the park 3 blocks away. My lungs were burning, my eyes were streaming, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I let myself cry. Really cry. But here's the thing about rock bottom, it's solid. It gives you something to push off from. I sat on that park bench for exactly 20 minutes, letting every emotion wash over me. The anger, the betrayal, the humiliation, the fear. I felt it all. And then I was done. I wiped my face, straightened my shoulders, and made a decision that would change everything. Derek wanted front row tears. He wanted psychological impact. He wanted to watch me break on Christmas morning. Fine, but he'd picked the wrong woman to underestimate. I walked back to the cafe where Lucas was waiting, having cleaned up my spilled coffee and ordered me a fresh cup. Lucas, I said, sitting down with a calmness that surprised even me. I need you to help me understand something. When exactly is Derek planning to file these papers? From what I heard, his lawyer is preparing everything now. Derek specifically requested Christmas morning service. So the papers don't exist yet. I don't think so. Why? I looked Lucas straight in the eye and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Because Derek made one critical error in his master plan. He assumed I'd just sit here and wait for him to destroy me. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app where I'd been tracking every detail of Derek's behavior for weeks. It's not going to break me, Lucas. I'm going to file first. The look on Lucas's face was pure admiration. Emily, are you sure you want to do this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Derek wants to play games. Let's play. But we're playing by my rules now. That night, I called Maya and told her we had work to do, because Derek was about to learn that the quiet wife he'd been planning to humiliate was actually the smartest person in the room, and I had 3 weeks to prove it. Maya's kitchen table became our war room. It was 11 p.m. on a Thursday, and we had legal documents spread across every inch of surface space, 2 laptops running, and enough coffee to keep us wired until dawn. Okay, Maya said, adjusting her reading glasses and pulling up another legal website. Sarah's friend confirmed it. Whoever files first has a significant strategic advantage. They set the narrative, they choose the jurisdiction, and they control the timeline. I was hunched over my laptop, cross-referencing Derek's financial information with everything I'd gathered over the past month. Bank statements, credit card bills, investment accounts I didn't even know he had. Maya, look at this, I said, pointing to a series of transactions. Derek's been moving money, small amounts but consistent, into an account I've never seen before. Maya leaned over my shoulder. That sneaky son of a... He's been hiding assets, probably for months. Which means he's been planning this way longer than I thought. The betrayal hit me fresh, but instead of breaking me down, it fueled my resolve. What else can we add to protect myself? Well, since you mentioned wanting kids someday, we should include language about future child support and custody arrangements. I paused. Maya, what if I told you that wasn't just hypothetical anymore? Her head snapped up so fast I thought she might get whiplash. Emily Martinez, are you telling me what I think you're telling me? I pulled a folded piece of paper from my purse. The pregnancy test I'd taken that morning was tucked inside along with the doctor's confirmation from my appointment the day before. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. Maya stared at the paper, then at me, then back at the paper. Does Derek know? Derek doesn't know, and Derek isn't going to know until I decide he needs to know. Emily, this changes everything. This gives you so much more leverage. Child support, custody, the works. I know. And that's exactly why we're going to document everything perfectly. We worked until 3 a.m. crafting a legal strategy that would make Derek's head spin. Every asset accounted for, every hidden account exposed, every cruel comment documented and time-stamped. Scan everything, Maya said, feeding papers through her printer. Multiple copies, multiple locations. I was creating backup files on 3 different USB drives when Maya suddenly looked up from her laptop. I have to ask, what if Derek somehow finds out what we're doing? What if he files first? The question hung in the air like smoke. All our planning, all our strategy, all our careful preparation could be worthless if Derek beat us to the courthouse. I looked at Maya across the table, surrounded by evidence of my husband's betrayal and our meticulous preparation for war. Then we better make sure he doesn't get the chance. But as I said those words, I couldn't shake the feeling that Derek might be planning something I hadn't anticipated. Something that could destroy everything we'd worked for. The clock on Maya's kitchen wall ticked past 3 a.m., and I realized that in less than 2 weeks, one of us was going to file divorce papers. The question was, who would make the first move? Christmas morning arrived with the kind of perfect winter sunlight that makes everything look like a holiday movie. I'd set our dining room table with the good china-lit candles, even put on the red dress Derek had complimented once 2 years ago. If this was going to be our last Christmas together, I wanted it to look picture perfect. Derek came downstairs around 9 a.m., coffee mug in hand, wearing that smug expression I'd learned to recognize. He thought today was going to be his victory lap. "Merry Christmas, honey," he said, kissing my cheek. with the kind of forced affection that made my skin crawl. "Merry Christmas, Derek." We exchanged the usual small gifts first. I gave him a new watch. He gave me a cookbook, which felt like one final insult, as if I needed to get better at the domestic duties I was apparently failing at. "Actually," Derek said, reaching into his jacket pocket, "I have one more gift for you." My heart started pounding, but I kept my face perfectly neutral. "Oh, how thoughtful!" He pulled out a manila envelope thick with official-looking papers. "This is something I've been working on for a while. I think it's time we discussed our future." The moment had arrived. Derek was so confident, so sure of himself as he slid the divorce papers across our Christmas table, like he was dealing cards. "I think you'll find everything's very straightforward," he said, settling back in his chair like a king on his throne. "Just sign where you see the yellow tabs." I opened the envelope and looked at the papers. Dissolution of marriage, irreconcilable differences. And sure enough, yellow sticky tabs marking exactly where Derek expected me to sign my life away. Here's the thing, Derek didn't know about me. I'd gotten very good at acting over the past few months. "Oh my," I said, putting on the exact voice of shocked confusion he was expecting. "Derek, I don't understand. What is this? It's a divorce, Emily. I want out. I've wanted out for a long time. But why I thought we were happy." Derek actually rolled his eyes. "Come on, Em, be honest with yourself. We're not compatible. We never were. I need someone who challenges me, someone on my level." Someone like Monica, I thought, but didn't say. Instead, I picked up the pen he'd placed next to the papers and signed my name on every yellow tab. Derek's eyes lit up with satisfaction. "There," I said, sliding the papers back to him. "All done. See, that wasn't so hard. You're taking this much better than I expected." "Oh, I'm full of surprises," I said, reaching under my chair for the leather portfolio I'd placed there earlier. "Speaking of which, I have a gift for you too." Derek looked puzzled but intrigued as I slid the portfolio across the table. "What's this?" "Open it." Derek unzipped the portfolio and pulled out the first document. His confident expression faltered as he read the header. "Petition for dissolution of marriage," he read aloud. "Filed December 23rd. His head snapped up. "Emily, what is this?" "Keep reading." The second document was a copy of the napkin from New Year's Eve, blown up and enhanced with his and Nate's signatures, clearly visible next to their $50 bet on my emotional breakdown. The third was a printed compilation of his text messages with Monica, including the ones about wanting front row tears. And the fourth document made Derek's face go completely white. "Is this—" he started, his voice barely a whisper. "A sonogram? Yes. Congratulations, Derek, you're going to be a father." Derek stared at the ultrasound image like it might burst into flames. "You're pregnant." 10 weeks, which means this baby was conceived in October, making it absolutely, unquestionably yours. "But you can't— the papers— oh, those papers you just watched me sign. Those were your divorce papers, Derek. The ones you filed. The ones I'm now consenting to. Because, you see, I filed mine 3 days ago." Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "You filed first. I filed first, with full documentation of your asset, hiding your affair with Monica Walsh and your psychological abuse. Plus, now there's the matter of child support. Emily, you don't understand. I had everything planned." I stood up from the table, smoothing down my red dress, and looked at my husband with the kind of calm that comes after a storm has passed. "Derek, here's what you never understood about me. I don't plan. I prepare, and I've been preparing for this moment since the night I heard you bet $50 on my breakdown." The man who had been so confident just minutes before was now staring at sonogram pictures of his unborn child, while his entire divorce strategy crumbled around him. "Merry Christmas, Derek. I hope you got everything you wanted." The silence that followed was deafening. Derek sat frozen at our Christmas table, staring at the sonogram like it held the secrets of the universe. His carefully constructed plan had just imploded, and you could practically see his brain trying to process what had happened. Emily, he finally said, his voice shaky. We need to talk about this. We can work this out. No, Derek, we really can't. Just then the doorbell rang. Perfect timing as always. That'll be Maya, I said, standing up. I invited her for Christmas dinner. I hope you don't mind. Derek's face went through several colors as I walked to the front door. Maya stood there holding a homemade apple pie and wearing the biggest smile I'd seen in months. How did it go? She whispered as I let her in. See for yourself. Maya walked into the dining room and took in the scene. Derek slumped in his chair, legal documents scattered across the table, and me standing there looking more relaxed than I had in years. Derek, Maya said brightly, as if she hadn't just walked into the aftermath of a marriage explosion. Merry Christmas, I brought pie. Derek looked at Maya like she'd just spoken in ancient Greek. You knew, he said. It wasn't a question. Honey, I helped. Maya replied, setting the pie down and cutting herself a generous slice. Emily, you want some? You're eating for two now. I sat back down and accepted the plate Maya handed me. The pie was perfect. Sweet, warm, comforting. Everything this morning was supposed to be before Derek tried to destroy my life. This is insane, Derek said, standing up abruptly. Emily, you can't just ambush me like this. I took another bite of pie. Ambush, Derek, you literally tried to serve me divorce papers on Christmas morning, after betting money on whether I'd cry, while texting your girlfriend about how pathetic I am. That's different. How is that different? Derek opened his mouth and closed it. He had no answer because there was no answer. You know what? He said, grabbing his jacket from the back of his chair. I don't have to stay here and listen to this. You're absolutely right, I agreed. You don't. Derek stormed toward the door, then turned back. This isn't over, Emily. Actually, Derek, it is. Completely over. Oh, and you might want to call Monica. Let her know her Christmas bonus just got a lot more complicated. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Maya and I sat in the sudden quiet, eating pie and listening to Derek's car tear out of the driveway. Well, Maya said, that went better than expected. Did it? I feel like I just blew up my entire life. Emily, you didn't blow up your life, you took it back. An hour later, Maya was helping me carry Derek's belongings to the garage when the locksmith arrived. I'd called him the moment Derek left, and he was here to change every lock in the house. New locks for a new start, the locksmith said, handing me a set of shiny new keys. I stood in my doorway, holding keys to my own home, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Derek had wanted to watch me break. Instead, he got to watch me build myself back up stronger than ever. And honestly, the view from here was pretty amazing. 1 year later, and everything looks different. I'm standing in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I once eavesdropped on my husband planning my destruction. But now it's filled with a completely different kind of sound. Baby Sophia is giggling from her high-chair applesauce, smeared across her cheeks while I finish making lunch. She has Derek's dark hair but my stubborn chin, and every day she reminds me that sometimes the most beautiful things come from the most painful circumstances. The doorbell rings, and Sophia claps her little hands in excitement. She knows that sound means visitors, and visitors usually mean fun. Lucas, I call out, opening the door to see my favorite person holding a bag of pastries from our old cafe. How are my two favorite girls? He asks, kissing my cheek and immediately reaching for Sophia, who practically launches herself into his arms. Uncle Lucas, she babbles, even though at 10 months old it sounds more like Unc Lucas. Lucas has been part of our lives since that day he first approached me in the cafe. What started as him looking out for someone who needed help has grown into something neither of us expected. He's patient kind, and he makes Sophia laugh in a way that lights up our entire house. Any word from Derek? Lucas asks, settling Sophia on his lap while I pour coffee. His child support came through on time this month. That's about the extent of our communication. I sit down across from them. He sends a birthday card to Sophia, but that's it. I think Monica keeps him pretty busy. Lucas nods. Probably for the best. Definitely for the best. The truth is, Derek did exactly what I expected him to do after Christmas. He fought the divorce settlement, tried to claim I'd manipulated him, even attempted to get the pregnancy timeline questioned. But when you have documentation, text message screenshots, and a paper trail of hidden assets, it's pretty hard to play the victim. The settlement was finalized in June. Derek pays child support. I kept the house and we split everything else according to what I'd actually contributed to our marriage, which it turned out was a lot more than he'd ever given me credit for. Emily. Lucas says, watching Sophia try to feed herself Cheerios with her tiny fist. I have something to ask you. Oh no, you're using your serious voice. Sophia's first birthday is coming up and I was wondering... He pauses, suddenly looking nervous. I was wondering if you'd let me be her godfather. Officially. I feel tears start to prick my eyes, but they're the good kind this time. Lucas, you've been her godfather since the day she was born. You just didn't have the paperwork. His smile could power the entire neighborhood. In that case, he says, I brought celebration pastries. As I watch Lucas help Sophia navigate a particularly challenging Cheerio, I think about where I was a year ago. Isolated, underestimated, convinced that I was lucky just to have someone tolerate my existence. I think about Derek's bet with Nate, about him expecting front row tears, about him planning to watch me break. He never did get those tears. What he got instead was a front row seat to watching someone refuse to be broken. I reclaimed my grace. I reclaimed my power. And I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so beautiful that your past can't touch it. Derek wanted to destroy me on Christmas morning. Instead, he gave me the greatest gift of all, the motivation to save myself. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what your favorite moment was. Have you ever had to choose between staying small or standing up for yourself? I'd love to hear your story. Remember, you're never as powerless as someone wants you to believe. Sometimes you just have to be quiet long enough to plan your next move. And trust me, the quiet ones always win in the end. If Emily's story taught you anything, it's that you're stronger than you think. Sometimes, the people who underestimate you are just setting themselves up for the biggest surprise of their lives. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about people who refuse to stay down. Like this video if Emily's Christmas surprise gave you the satisfaction you needed today. And drop a comment telling me, what would you have done in Emily's situation? Thanks for listening, and remember, the quiet ones are always watching, always learning, and always ready to prove everyone wrong. See you in the next story.